In BI, we often don't know how long our tools and solutions will be used, so what we build must be flexible and responsive. Of course, designing dashboards that are adaptable in this way takes practice. In this section, we're going to focus on how to build dashboards that can effectively monitor data for the long term. We'll also keep practicing creating dashboards in Tableau, but this time there's a twist. You're going to apply the decision-making principles you learned about earlier to a realistic business scenario. You'll get to really envision yourself in your future role as a BI professional. This exercise will also enable you to practice identifying stakeholder needs and addressing them with your own fully functional dashboard. You'll meet with your client and use the information they provide to build relevant charts in Tableau. You'll organize the charts into a dashboard, share it with users, address their feedback, and iterate on your dash. Now, it's time to get started. Get ready for the next big milestone in your BI journey. Creating a dashboard is a collaborative process between the BI professional and stakeholders. I like to compare it to an elaborate dance among talented partners that requires skill, communication, and practice. Coming up, you'll focus on the practice part of the dashboard dance. The next few lessons encompass a role-play exercise. Similar to past courses, you'll learn from videos, readings, activities, and quizzes. However, you're also going to take on a whole new perspective. You are a BI professional who has just been given a new project. The first video you'll encounter will be a simulated video call with your stakeholder. You won't actually interact with them, but you'll experience the basics of a typical meeting to explore BI project details. Then, you will proceed to readings or emails in this role-play setting to get more context about the project and hints about how to proceed. These emails will be similar to the ones you receive from stakeholders and supervisors in a professional setting. All of these elements will enable you to complete activities and produce deliverables. The goal of this exercise is to practice applying your decision-making and design skills. Some of the instructions may be open-ended and require you to try out different approaches. Rather than being directed through each click to make a predetermined chart in Tableau, you'll be asked to design a chart that matches certain parameters. The guidance you receive will focus on how to meet stakeholder needs rather than how to use the program itself. You may develop something, then decide that it could be improved on or that it doesn't adequately meet expectations. That's great. You're encouraged to practice trial and error. That's a big part of BI. But you won't be completely on your own. Readings will come from your supervisor and clients who will offer clues and redirection about their expectations. Immerse yourself in the BI professional role and envision your future in this field. Explore each step at your own pace and try all kinds of different strategies as you plan, build, and iterate on your dashboard. While this exercise consists of fictional details and practice data, you'll gain some awesome business insight as you complete it. Have fun.
I'm Andrea. I'm a senior data and analytics analyst. In my job, I have the power to make recommendations to senior leadership and to influence their decision-making process by going into the data, processing it, and trying to make sense of what I'm looking in the numbers. My users, my clients, are financial analysts or financial managers that need to use the finance data that I'm producing to make their decisions, create the reports, and then translate those analyses into actions that are going to influence how Google is going to look like in the future. I use business intelligence tools every day. I mostly use SQL and Python. SQL to query the large data sets that I work with, Python to make sense of those data sets and do some statistical analysis and then create a story that then I'm going to share with my leadership. But a few times I get to use dashboards. When I use dashboards, I make sure that the visualization I'm creating, it looks nice, it's pretty, but the most important thing is that the story that I'm telling is compelling and is easy and fast to understand, because my audience doesn't have time. Once you can make sense of the data and come back to your audience and explain that story and share with them what you're seeing, but at the same time proposing some recommendations, that's when the job gets really exciting. You as a business intelligence analyst, you are the one going into the data. You are the one spending hours looking at this data set. So no one else is going to know the answer better than you, and no one else is going to be able to put the story as you wanted to put it. So I will say it really gives you a lot of power when you know what's going on, looking into the data. And when you go back to your audience and you're making a recommendation or a proposal, you have the power to tell the story in a compelling way, and you have the power to influence and have long-term impact, because your decision makers are going to use your inputs to then make a decision that is probably going to last for 5-10 years.
Hey there, and thanks for meeting with me today. Your supervisor told me that you were the one to come to if I needed a dashboard built. I appreciate you taking the time. Feel free to take notes if you like, but I'll send an email with the most important information after this call. Okay, I'll jump right into the details. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, and we're trying to find trends in traffic volume on the interstate. The goal is to find out if we need to make any infrastructure changes, like adding or changing lanes, entrances, or exits. We want to have a dashboard that monitors the incoming traffic data. If we can find trends in the data, we can figure out what changes we should make. The dashboard should track a couple of key things. The most important chart will monitor the traffic volume throughout the year. It'd be great if you could organize that by year, month, week, day, and hour. It'll help us figure out where the patterns are. Another chart we'd like to have is one that compares the traffic volume to weather conditions. We want to better understand the weather's effect on traffic behavior. And finally, we want to know which holidays have the highest traffic volume. That might help us plan some infrastructure updates so we don't have any lanes blocked off when they're needed the most. I'll also be sure to share these details and the data set with you right away. You'll get the traffic volume data set that includes data collected since 2012. It should be enough to demonstrate the key trends. That's all I have for you now. Your supervisor should have the rest of the details and help you get started. Thanks again for helping out on this. Bye-bye. Earlier in this course, you practiced creating a chart in Tableau and reviewed some design best practices. Now that you're working on a dashboard for the Minnesota Department of Transportation, you'll apply your skills to this project. You have the data, the BI planning documents, and the business requirement, which is building a dashboard using the traffic data. It'll be up to you to decide how many charts you need on your dashboard. There are 4 questions that will help you move forward successfully. Which parts of the dataset will enable you to address the business requirement? Which measures and dimensions will be represented in each chart? Which chart types and forms of encoding will be most effective? And how many charts are required? Here's an example. I recently worked on a project about Google Human Resources. The project goal was to better understand HR changes over time so processes could be optimized. For the first question, I chose to include data about active employees and turnover, team hierarchies, and recruitment in order to tell an insightful story. After that, I chose which measures and dimensions to represent in each chart. I knew that for one of my charts, I wanted counts of active employees aggregated over dimensions of both time and team hierarchy data. Once I did that, I experimented with how to encode the data to be as clear as possible. As a refresher, encoding describes the process of translating dimensions and measures into visual representations of the data. So, I asked myself which chart types and forms of encoding would be most effective. When doing this, you might discover that a certain concept is better represented with colors on a map instead of bars on a chart, or vice versa. I ended up using a variety of chart types while working on my HR project. Line charts to represent total employees over time, stacked bar charts to show employees by product area, and even waterfall charts to show how both new hiring and turnover contributed to net changes over time. Okay, the final question is, how many chart types are required? For instance, you might decide that more than one visualization is needed to answer a particular question. Or you could choose to dedicate just one chart to each. For my project, I made a point to empathize with my stakeholders. Using my knowledge of the problems they're trying to solve enabled me to select the right trade-offs between keeping the dashboard focused versus providing lots of detail. Answering these 4 key questions and drawing your mock-up will prepare you to create the best charts possible for your Minnesota Department of Transportation scenario. Then, you'll be ready to move on to the next part, when you'll design your actual dashboard. If you get stuck while building your charts, refer to the upcoming reading. This is an email from your supervisor that will help you identify the best path forward. You can also go back to the previous sections of this course to review different aspects of chart building. All right, Let's use your BI knowledge and design skills to make some visualizations that will really wow your client.
Hi, my name is Erica. I'm a technical program manager at Google. I had a bit of a winding career journey going from flying planes to data analysis to now where I'm at as a technical program manager. I went to the Naval Academy for my undergrad degree, and after that I went on to be a Navy pilot, flying P-3 Orions. Transitioning out of the military, there was a lot that I still needed to learn about business intelligence, data analysis, and so as I entered my new job after the military, I did a lot of that learning on my own. So I really utilized online resources, YouTube, and a lot of just trying things out and learning, by playing around with different systems. I think it was intimidating for sure to have to learn these new skills quickly and to be able to deliver on what I needed to for my job. But I think over time you kind of embrace those nerves and you learn that I can do this, I can learn this new skill, I can ask for help. So for one of the projects that I'm working on now, we have a dashboard that tracks engagement with this system that we've created. Dashboards are a way to visually present information and allow others to draw insights from it. Imagine if you didn't have a dashboard and you were just presenting people with a table of data. It would be very hard for them to draw any useful insights, especially someone, maybe a leadership, who doesn't have time to kind of dig through data themselves. So you're presenting it in a way that's useful and allows people to quickly draw insights or maybe even interact with it by changing some filters and understand what they need to know about that data. So we're looking at a historical trend over time, seeing how engagement in our case has been increasing over time, and maybe some dips when different things happened throughout the life of this new system. And so that allows us to gain insights and understand maybe what we could do to increase engagement. I think when you have a way to visualize the current state, the historical state, change over time, that allows you to notice when things aren't right. And so if it's just kind of raw data in a spreadsheet or in a table, you might not be able to easily gain that insight, and you might miss something that is impacting your program or whatever it is, your product, that you wouldn't catch unless you were visualizing the data in a way that allowed you to notice those discrepancies. Every dashboard is going to have a different goal, I would say. So there's probably, for whatever project or program or whatever the purpose of the dashboard is, there's probably some key performance indicators that you're going to want to be tracking on the dashboard. And typically you'll know what those are based on the questions that you get asked frequently about the data or about the program. I really love making dashboards because I think it's so rewarding when you're creating something that's useful to many people and allowing them to be more effective in their jobs. I was looking for a job that kept me challenged. That was probably my number one criteria that I was looking for. And I've definitely found that here, where I'm just constantly learning, talking to experts in their fields every day, and it's really something that I'm grateful for.
In the last lesson, you created charts for the dashboard you're designing for the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Now, it's time to build the dashboard itself. As you've learned, it's important to apply best practices when organizing dashboard elements. This ensures they're laid out in a logical manner and that you've constructed a clear visual flow. Feel free to review the lessons about dashboard design before you continue. As a reminder, you'll want to place the most relevant visualizations at the top of the dash. Then, use hierarchy and contrast to emphasize supporting elements. And be sure to consider how to incorporate negative space between charts. You'll likely find that your dashboard design experience will depend on the choices you made in the previous activity. For example, if you created many charts to describe Minnesota's interstate traffic, then you'll have more elements to balance. This is an example of yet another trade-off. More visualizations enable you to display more data, but you risk overwhelming the client or slowing down the dash. Use your best judgment to identify the most effective outcome. It's also possible that a chart you thought you needed isn't really necessary, or that you're missing a chart that's required to answer one of the business questions. If so, simply return to the chart building phase and make the adjustments. As you know, building a dashboard is an iterative process, so you can always change direction as you progress. Just like before, if you have any trouble, refer to the reading to get hints from your supervisor. Okay, now it's time to get building. By now, you've created a dashboard to track traffic volume on the Minnesota Interstate. You created charts and organized them into a powerful tool that your clients can use. You've also learned about the kinds of questions you should ask while creating a dashboard. Now, in this video, we'll explore iteration. We've covered many typical iterative improvements, including changes to aesthetics, design approaches, processing speed, privacy permissions, and many more. There are all kinds of ways to refine a dashboard during iteration. Fortunately for you, your client, the Minnesota Department of Transportation, has clearly explained their feedback on your dashboard. They've sent you an email with notes about your work. The feedback is very positive, but there's still some work to do. Turns out, another member of the team wants some new features added to the dash. It'll be up to you to figure out how to best implement them. There might be several ways to action this feedback, such as editing an existing graph or creating a new one. You may need to explore the dataset again and pre-aggregate it with SQL. Or, it's possible that their request is inappropriate for the project. If so, you'll need to be able to justify why you're unable to make the changes they've asked for. As with all feedback, keep an open mind about the stakeholders' ideas. Even when you're confident in your work, it's always possible to learn something new. Good luck on the last phase of this role-play exercise. Have fun with it. Congratulations on taking a practical, hands-on approach to a BI solution request. You've now played the role of a BI professional, applying your knowledge of dashboards and stakeholder needs to a realistic work situation. While the scenario took place within a learning environment, it contains several components that you will find in a professional setting. A stakeholder requested that you build a traffic monitoring dashboard. You took the information they shared, then considered key questions and created a mock-up to help you select your charts. Next, you created the charts, which involved evaluating the dataset and deciding what information to showcase and how. Then, it was time to organize the elements of your dashboard. Your stakeholders wanted a tool they could refer to for immediate insights, so you used your BI skills to fulfill that need. And finally, you received feedback and iterated on your dash. This involved thinking about whether the requested changes were feasible and made sense within the context of the project. Include this project in your portfolio to share with hiring managers during your job hunt. You're doing a great job demonstrating all of your hard work.